Good morning. It is Friday, February 17th. I'm Sensei Mish. Welcome to Morning Tea with me. I have my tea seeping right now. I'm a little bit late because nobody replaced the water jug on my little water thing. So I had to took me a little bit more time to get my water done. But I'm this morning I'm drinking I don't know if you can see that off in the little corner. The Tazo, I don't know how you pronounce it, but anyway, it's a green tea with like peppermint and lemon. And initially, when I tasted it, I was like, "Oh, well, this is different," but it's actually kind of grown on me. I kind of like it. Um, my my favorite though is the lychee green tea. Um, uh, Everybody knows that, and or at least I would hope most people would know that. But my standard is just the stash green tea. That's just kind of my standard. Um, but this one isn't too bad. The last time I went and bought tea, I bought like a bunch of different brands because I was like, oh, what about this? So what about that? All being green. I can't remember what brand it was, but it's an elderberry flavor green tea. So it's really not too bad. So uh, here's to all our hot tea drinkers there. Mm, that is good. Uh, Morning, Rob. My standard is coffee, but teas I enjoy jasmine green tea. You know, I can't, and again, I cannot remember this flavor. Um, I found a green tea in a tin at my local grocery store, and and I was like, "Oh, I let's try this." I'm always up for trying different green teas, and yeah, it tasted so bad. Like it when and it didn't come like this is your standard. You buy the tea, get the tea bag, all that kind of stuff. My lychee green tea, I actually have to have a little seeper thingy, you know little spoon, filtered spoon, and then I and this other stuff that I bought, this random stuff that was in it, and I cannot remember what brand or even what flavor, but but yeah, so I it just didn't taste good, and I think I may have talked about it when I originally bought it, but it is what it is. So last week, and forgive me, I'm gonna do a really quick search as I talk about this. So last week we had Jason Brick on here. Um, he's a writer, martial artist, all that other kind of fun stuff. He does. He's actually writing a book right now, and I don't know why I didn't bring it up, but he's doing a pre-sale, so I'm going to put the link up here for anybody who wants to get the book. So let's see. This book releases in late February. Pre-ordering. Oh, shoot, I hate these things that pop up. Why are you doing a pop up? Pre-order pricing is good through February 21st. So we have another couple days. So let me get that book. Why is it? Oh, that's a workbook. Never mind. Let's close that down. That's a free workbook. Add to cart. So right now, this book is sale price. Your pre-order sale price is $12 plus I think $10 shipping. So regular price is going to be $19. But it's called Safest Family on the Block. Actually, let me see if I can't share this. Let me get back onto here, and present. Window share. So, so anyway, so this is the book, Safest Family on the Block, 101 Tips, Tricks, Hacks, and Habits to Keeping Your Family Safe. So he's got a thing on Facebook, maybe Instagram too. I can't remember, but anyway, he's a cool guy. I love the concept. This is a book he's doing, but he's also setting it up where, like, if for actual training. So for, like, I don't know. I think when he and I talked, he was just throwing out the number. It's like, okay, for $250, you can take this class online, or say $150, and you take this class online and you do whatever. And it gives you like topics like cell phone safety, or, and he's got all these different topics that he's got laid out. So Safest Family on the Block is a great program, and this is kind of your first taste. So I'm going to let me get that link posted here. So of course that's going to show up on the Sensei Mish. Oh my gosh, this is really long. Okay, let's try and shorten that down a little bit, because I got the link through Facebook. So let's see if we can't. Let's see if that, cool. All right, I'm going to repost this. If I can find my tab, all these different windows. Okay. So all right, and then we're going to get, no, I'm not going to put myself in timeout. How do I just get rid of something? Okay. Anyway, so here is the link. It's kind of long. HTTPS www, or basically safestfamilyontheblock.org/safest-family-on-the-block. You see it. Rob, if you're still on, if you're able to, can you copy and paste that to the Facebook? Or maybe, no, I think I can do it. Hold on a second, because that'll just be easier for me, because I already have my Facebook open. It's just on a different thing. So there we go. That'll just make it easier for everybody. And then, why aren't I coming up? I should be streaming. There we go. Okay. There we go. Link is in the Facebook description, because the Facebook description will stay up there. For some reason, the what do you call it? The YouTube is only visible when I'm actually live. So I thought that was that's interesting. Let's see what else is going on. Oh yeah, Star Trek Picard season 3 episode 1 aired yesterday. I'm not going to give a lot of spoilers. Rob, I woke up to a text from Rob yesterday saying, hey, let me know what you think. And so I watched it first thing. I got up, got my tea, sat down, watched me some Star Trek. Very excited for this show. Oh, well, yeah, true. I was going to add that in there. You're getting a little ahead. So after I watch it, I tell him my thoughts. And I want everybody, I have mixed emotions about the show. I mean, season 1 got a bad rap. Season 2 was better. Wasn't perfect, but it was better. And then with it kind of like the last couple of, the last second to last episode, you've heard me and Rob talk about it. It was He felt it was a little bit rushed. I could kind of agree with him on that. The last one I thought was very rushed. And then I didn't get the whole like Taco Bell fire butt in the, in space, let the Borg save it. I didn't get that. And of course, like, and like any episodic television, and this is something that we talked about yesterday in our 3-hour conversation, because after I watched the episode, we started chatting by text back and forth. And then he's like, I'm on a phone call right now for work. I will call you because this needs more of a voice to voice conversation instead of over text. And I'm like, cool. So he calls me like, I don't know, 20 minutes later, something like that. And we ended up talking for 3 hours. Now, were all those 3 hours focused on Star Trek? No, we're friends, we're geeks, we talk about everything. However, we did start developing a new Star Trek show that happens in this time span, not knowing how Picard season 3 ends, but we have we have an amazing, like he says, great. I think it's amazing. It's an amazing idea. Like, not knowing how the show ends though. So like we could be totally wrong, but just going off of stuff we've read and what we'd like to see as fans, because here's the thing. Like I say, I still have high hopes for this show. With each season, it's gotten better. And like I was starting to say, like episodic television, you go from one episode to the next and kind of sometimes forget there might be like an overlapping theme, like like the long-term relationships or a reference here and there, but like the whole Borg thing last season, it just kind of ends, and it's not like we don't continue on. It's like, so what is up with this whole, transwarp fire, Taco Bell fire ass ball hole in the sky? I don't know. Because it just ends it. Okay. And we just go on to another episode. So I see this as a 10-part, like the way that they've put Picard together is a 10-part episodic television. So each season is its own episode split into 10 parts. So now we have episode 3, part 1. And I actually think it starts out that way. It says part 1, or maybe chapter 1 or episode 1 or something like that. You can tell it's written by a fan. There is some fan service. Like it starts off with fan service. It is shoot. So if anybody remembers, and like I'm not giving anything away here. This is literally the you turn the show on, it does its little CBS Star Trek thingy, and then this is the first thing you see. It says in the 25th century. So and then of course we get now, okay. Let's see. What did you, they are also a Fallout fan with music choices. Well, I haven't played Fallout. I'm assuming that's a video game. And maybe Rob might have to elaborate a little bit more there. But what I notice is the very, very first you have in the 25th century, just like the beginning of Khan, of Star Trek 2, where it says in the 23rd century, in the exact same font. But it's not matched with the Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan music. It is matched with what is it? The First Contact music, where just like how First Contact, the music starts out. And it even kind of blurs a little bit. The Picard logo comes up and it kind of blurs a little bit. So And then of course, you get like it's you can tell it's written by a fan, but like Rob and I were talking about yesterday, it's written by a fan who's excited that he's writing for Star Trek. And so like it's almost like I see some of the mistakes that he would make as a fan, that he should know better. That he's like, oh, I get to write for Star Trek, but then he forgets how to write a story. So it's not bad. Um, it's good, like, but it's not great. I think, like I was telling, I was expecting more. That's kind of where I was going with, but it's only part one, and it is like it does kind of bounce around a lot of places. What do you call it? We get introduced to a lot of material, so it's like we're here and we're here and we're here. But I get the setup. I get the setup. Okay, so yeah, same musical selection with the song "I Didn't Want to Set the World on Fire" opening track, plus the others. Okay, got okay. But it's worth watching. Like, if you've been waiting for it and haven't seen it yet, I'm not going to spoil it. Just go watch it, and then you can make up your own mind. But I got to tell you, okay. Now here we go. I'm being humble. It's a fucking epic. Let's call it what it is. It is. So this spin-off idea. Okay. So there was an article that Rob shared with me about the Enterprise F. So, before I get too far into my story, with the music, watching it the second time through, maybe some foreshadowing. Yes, and I will, maybe, and I might give out a little bit, like, it's not a spoiler, but I am going to point out, after I tell my story. Jim, how are you, sir? So just to let you know, Master Corn, I have been diligently working on your book. That's one of the things that I've been doing. I've got a bunch of different stuff going on. So, I just finished transcribing, or not necessarily transcribe. Everything is transcribed now. I have to go listen and edit. What was it? It was Jason Graham's story of you. I think it was 2010 at Budo Camp. Maybe it was 2011. I can't remember. Budo Camp, and you taught a bunch of knife stuff with kids there, and then retold the story with cats. and so that story is entitled, so that takes me to cats. And apparently he has a picture of you doing like with a cat, like throwing the cat at the intruder. Anyway, it was funny to listen to the story originally when Jason told it, and it was a riot listening again as I went through it. So hopefully the passion he put into that story, we can get onto the page. Like I still needs a little bit of editing, but for the most part, I've got a lot of it on the page. So we'll see how that all turns out. But I'm actively working on it. I'm dedicating a little bit of time every day because honestly, there was a little bit there where I didn't do anything with it. So I want to get it done. I want to keep progress on this. So as you send me more stuff, we can just go, oh, more stuff. And then we just kind of get to it. But what's coming through is absolutely amazing. So, and for those of you who don't know, I'm not going to say I'm ghostwriting, because really it's Jim and other people telling stories about Jim. and I'm just taking the audio and then transcribing it, editing it. So I guess you could just say I'm the editor. So, or I'm the person that's putting together the book. Book is not ready to be printed, but we will definitely let people know when it's going to come out. So it's a really fun project to be on. Now, onto this spinoff. So Rob sends me this article about the Enterprise F, and apparently in this time frame, Enterprise F, it still flies, but it's been so destroyed that after its only 15 years of service, it's going to be mothballed, but it's going to take one last flight during Federation Day or whatever. Don't know what that's going to look like, but at some point, that's what they're saying is going to happen in Picard season 3. And so this got onto a discussion of like, what is if the Enterprise isn't around? The Enterprise has always been the flagship of the Federation. So what if the Enterprise isn't around? And I think maybe the article said, or it insinuated, that the Titan was going to be like the flagship of the Federation. So, but doing math, like, let's go back to the Next Generation. When we learn about Enterprise C and its fate, and how it built up the relations between the Federation and the Klingons, at this, I think it was the Battle of Narendra 3 or something like that. It was lost and destroyed. And there were, I would say, almost a decade or more that there was no Enterprise. So, and it could have also been because our next Enterprise is going to be the next Enterprise is going to be a Galaxy class starship, and that's not going to be ready for X number of years. I mean, that would be my guess. That would be my guess. And like, even in real life, like CV6, like, it survived World War II, but when they mothballed it, like, it was several years between it and CVN-65. And the Enterprise CVN-65 was supposed to be a brand new, like, that's what it was going, like, all the new aircraft carriers were going to look and feel like the Big E. But it was way, way too expensive. So that's where the Nimitz came from. The Nimitz was the next one, the Nimitz class, which is just a slightly smaller version, less expensive. So CVN-65, the aircraft carrier, was the only one of its class, the only one. And the Nimitz class ended up taking over. Well, here's the thing, is that the Enterprise, I think I can't remember when it was commissioned, like 65, 60, like 69. I have like a National Geographic all about it. So anyway, whenever it was originally done, well, they mothballed that. I mean, after 50 years, they mothballed it. So I think it was like 12, like maybe it's been a decade. I don't know. But it's one of those where it's like the next ship is going to be 88, or I think it's is it CV-88? I don't know. I'll have to double check on that. But the next one is in the works. So there is a time period between the ending of one ship and them planning, okay, this name is going to go to another ship. So there's got to be this time frame. So if they are going to end Enterprise F, well, what's going to end up being Enterprise G? And I can see how they went from Enterprise D to E really quick, because and I don't know if it's in the lore. I never really paid attention to that, because we lose D in Generations, and we get F in or we get Enterprise E in what do you call it? In First Contact. But so I can see it's like, oh, well, we had this tragic accident. We lost the ship completely. Oh, there's this new ship coming out. We'll just, change the name to the Enterprise and just give them the ship. So that's kind of my behind the things. So long story short, Enterprise G is the next one. So FG. So since people are like, oh, well, it's not the end of the next generation, or some people have said, well, this is the story of the next generation's next generation. This is the show that we want, that Rob and I thought up and we talked about yesterday. So Enterprise G, okay. 7, who we already see in the previews, is a commander on the Titan, or at least that's it's insinuated. So she's commander of the Titan, or commander, first officer. Her rank is commander. She's given whatever the events of Picard season 3, she's given a captaincy, and the next ship out, because Enterprise F is on its way out. The next one out, maybe we'll fast forward a couple years, because is the Enterprise G. So we have, and we can bring back Picard and Janeway for like some type of celebration. It's like as whatever, kind of like that handoff. So she ends up captaining the new Enterprise. Now, we already know that that Geordi LaForge's daughter, or his daughters, are in the show. We know one of them is his real daughter, is LeVar Burton's real daughter from real life. And yes, christening of the ship's maiden voyage. So she, and we've already seen her in the previews. Well, she ends up being on the Enterprise as the officer. And then we were even thinking, let's bring characters from lower decks. So like Rutherford, who is kind of the he's the engineer, and this is many years later. So he could be a commander or lieutenant commander by now, and he's on the Enterprise. And maybe even have Boimler as a lieutenant or a lieutenant commander. I don't know where he would fit into that, but then even connect it where we could have a Boimler episode where he's contacting Mariner, copy that, sir. I'll talk to you later. And so it's like we could bring in these characters, and we already know that they're going to do, they've already talked about it openly, that there's going to be a Strange New World / Lower Decks tie-in where we see the characters of Lower Decks. It might be like I don't know, some type of time thing, or like time travel, but the actual voice actors of the characters are going to be live action in Strange New Worlds. So we've already established that. So maybe we can bring them into this time frame. Okay. So anyway, don't know what the show would be called. We could call it, Star Trek G, or I don't know, that's really dumb. Or just like Star Trek Enterprise G, or I don't know, whatever you would call it. But you have 7 as the captain. You have not Ensign LaForge. Let's give her a promotion, say Lieutenant LaForge. She's the helm officer on the bridge. And then the next generation. Is that like or the next out? I don't know. I want to almost throw in like however they named the Friday, like Friday after next, the next Friday, that kind of or the generation after next. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Generation after next. Anyway, so anyway, Enterprise G, Seven's captain. We have Lieutenant LaForge. Maybe even her sister. I mean, we don't know. We don't know what her sister does. Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. So I think that's what we'll do. Like the generation after next will be the title, because Rob and I are going to write this up and see how this goes forward. And then you have Rutherford as an engineer. You have Boimler on the bridge doing something. Maybe even Boimler is the first officer. Like, it's been enough time. Like there's ways we can promote these characters. And even like Rob said, that would be really cool. Like, they still get together as like the ensigns. They still get together via holodeck. So it would almost be like, like that live Zoom, but it would be, holodeck, and they're all transmitting. But in the holodeck, they revert to their cartoon characters. So, I mean, like, there's so many possibilities. It would be such an awesome show to watch. I think that would be, and you could have like Rob was, the christening of the ship's maiden voyage, where you could bring in these legacy characters. I don't know. And then you also have, God, who's the I cannot remember his name. He is the actor, or he's the Romulan who becomes a Starfleet. They established that he became Starfleet, and he was serving on the Excelsior. So maybe he could be in the show too. So we have these characters that we know with new characters on a ship that we like, a kind of a new Enterprise. I don't know. I just think it would be just a way cool, way cool thing. So, Bill, sir, how are you? I'm doing okay. Just talking about Picard, not giving away any secrets, but actually I just finished talking about a new idea. All right, so Emmett, evening all. Another day's hustling done, and listen to Mish on commute. Life's tough in the insurance game. Did you get my email? So I emailed you late, but I sent you an email with shipping costs. So if you didn't get it, let me know, Emmett, and then maybe I can resend it to you, because I think it was a little late. So anyway, so that was exciting. There was a 3 hour. I mean, and we also talked about Quantum Leap, and that, and yeah, there's an interesting Quantum Leap episode, the last one that's up there, that we talked. It was a little preachy. It was kind of the woke shove information down your throat type of episode, which I expect from Star Trek Discovery, but not from Quantum Leap. So we talked about that and all that kind of stuff, but it's always good talking to Rob. So now, one thing, there's been a lot of things I didn't really kind of go into, a lot of the things I've been doing lately when I was talking to Jason yesterday. And I am on his podcast. I don't know when it airs or, how I'm going to look, but I should probably reach out to him, and I'll give you guys a link when I do that. But I have been working on the school. I think I did a school read. That was really, really fun. And started doing Boys and Girls Club. That's really, really fun through Burton. I'm starting to reach out to other elementary schools. So now, one elementary school that I am working with, that I've done stuff with in the past, Furcrest, I'm going to be at their what do you call it? Their carnival. So, but their carnival is June 2nd, which is my birthday, which is a Friday. So their big school carnival is Friday the 2nd at like 5:30. So it's one of those where I'm it's one of those where God, what do we call it? I mean, it's on my birthday, but I was also going to be doing like a birthday camp like I did last year. So that's probably still going to happen on Saturday. I just need to come up with some of the details. So I just haven't had a chance to work on that. Bram's camp is coming up in July. I've actually got a lightsaber. Burton is doing a, what is it? It's a parents' night out at the school. I've got a friend of mine, Garrett, Morgan Garrett, who used to teach down at Saber Forge. So we're going to have a Star Wars lightsaber instruction thing. So it's going to be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to it. Not a lot of kids have signed up. So I'm hoping I'll have a lot of kids show up. So that's part of it. Now, what I have here is my latest opus. And I've so this is actually the notes. So I've been working on the crimp with, or the kata naihanchi with the crimp, and because you can put a lot of the applications into the kata. I see a lot of the crimp entries. The crimp entries, both standard and backward. So we've got that. And then I was like, okay, well, what other stuff? I wanted putting it together in a book. And I wanted to have at least 25 applications with maybe 4 or 5 variations. So I wanted a good 30 applications, and the variations, of course, it's, the same move, maybe a different follow-up, or maybe I'm doing something, like maybe I throw in a kick instead of a to make it a little bit more effective. So I came up with, I had 27 applications filled out. So I've got, right now it is 4 pages long. Okay. With notes, I came up with 27, and 4 of those have variations. Now, going through my notes, because we do stuff in class, I write it on the board, and then I had transcribed it. So, going over my notes with Gordon last night, I was like, okay, I want to go through each one. And so I did it, based off what I wrote and what I remembered. I would do the application, and we talk about where I see it coming out. And then he did it. So I know that somebody else can replicate it. And even in class, it's like, okay, I see this, we're playing with this, and boom. So I came to one variation, and I was like, that's not really a variation. It's more of a, it is kind of a variation, but the variation fits elsewhere in the kata, not for the move that it's original. So now we've changed it. We updated a little bit because we worked it, and my notes weren't that clear, so I added notes. You can see that I've written in between the lines on a lot of this. And so now I have 28 solid applications, 3 of them with variations. So still 31. Like, this is going to be an awesome book. So we're next class Tuesday, we're going to go through, finish out the other applications, and then at some point we'll do like a pre-taping. So then I'll have it all on video as kind of like, okay, well, this is where I see it coming from. And then I can switch it around and make sure that these are the applications, because I'd like to, because in the initial filming will be the filming for the book, video for the book, and then an actual video as in teaching. So it's almost like I'm making a DVD, but it's going to end up being a book. So I think that's kind of where, and I talked to Dan Anderson and we talked, and so I'm, he's, we talked about, well, I hadn't talked to him in a while, so we talked about a bunch of different things. But when it came to the book and the QR code, he was saying that, he's like, yeah, he says, even when, we blatantly rip off stuff from other people, like, that whole QR code thing, and I, making my visual readers. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll use that term, because where do we, if we're going to innovate and we're going to keep things standard, let's do that. So if I've, if I've done a thing where it's like, okay, well, if I create a QR code to link to this video, then, and he's going to do the same, and other people do the same, if he's going to coin a term, I might as well steal that too. So, so the term visual reader. Now, I love Dan, visual reader. I get it. I would have named it something different, but I want to keep the idea the same. So if somebody, like if I'm using some terminology and Dan is using some terminology and somebody else wants, ooh, that's a great idea, I should do it, and they start saying, okay, it's a visual reader, then the more people that use the idea and that same terminology, then we'll all know what the hell we're talking about. Because like, how many locks or applications that we do, and it's like, yeah, I know the lock, like center lock. I'll show center lock and someone's like, oh, well, that's this. It's the same thing, like center lock, S lock, Z lock. I know there's a Japanese term for it. I don't know what it is, but it's one of those where it's like, like it's all terminology. So if we keep the terminology the same, then it'll be good. So anyway, so that's just a bunch of stuff. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now for my own book stuff. And just trying to find different places that I can fit into to be more part of the community. So anyway, let's see what else. Shoot. Ooh, this is sitting. I'm gonna show you guys this. This is I went up to see Harvey Hundit the other day, last week, and he's like, I have a gift for you. So he gives me, and of course the box looked better, but his dog kind of chewed on it. But it's a Scallywag. It's from Scallywag Tactical, and it's this little necklace knife. But you pull it out, and it's this cute little blade, and it is amazingly sharp. Look at that, amazingly sharp. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So so yeah, I was very surprised. I was like, a gift for me? So I could put it around my neck. I don't like necklaces, but like I could totally wear this. But I'd have to turn it around because I'd be doing this. I'd be like, ha. So anyway, this is I was very surprised by this gift. Thank you very much, Harvey. So but yeah, so there's that. And let's see. Gosh. Oh, Bad Batch is going Bad Batch is going pretty well. The last episode was it was okay. It was kind of like a little adventure thing. Star Wars Theory. I just saw this posted. I don't know if it's, if it's just clickbait or not. Usually Theory doesn't have like clickbait things on their YouTube channel, but it's like like breakdown of episode 9. He goes, I hate Sid. So interested in that. Oh, YouTube. This is what I did want to tell you guys about. And I've told a couple people. I told Rob yesterday. I found a new podcast. It is actually on. I don't know where it else is streaming, but it is. It's on YouTube. You get the visual for YouTube, and then you've got, and it's on Apple Podcasts, I think. Yeah, I did. It's on Apple Podcasts, but it is. What's it called? It's called Shuttle Pod Podcast, and I remember seeing this pop up a while back. I did not know who was behind it, but it's like, I've been trying not to consume a lot of content, like, because dude, if I get onto TikTok, like I have to pull myself off because it's a little bit addicting. So I don't go on to YouTube that much. And, I don't want to get sucked down that rabbit hole because I'm trying to be productive and, build my business. And if I get sucked into something, then I can't be productive and build my business the way it needs to be built and do the things I need to do. So I remember seeing it pop up. It's been out for a year. But I never really paid attention to it because I was just like, oh, okay, well, I started a Star Trek podcast for a year at Trek, and then these guys, but come to find out, it's actually led by Connor Trinneer and Dominic Keating, Trip Tucker, and Malcolm. God, what's the character's name? I want to say Malcolm Reynolds, but it's not. It's that's Firefly. Shoot. Anyway, the tactical officer and the chief engineer from Enterprise. And so I watched, what is it? I watched the Michael Dorn one. That's like over 2 hours. And I was like, wow, like it's really cool. So I was like, they're in their season 2. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go check this out. So I just started watching, and it's a real, like, I went back to the beginning. Hello, folks. Greetings from Britain. Well, Dr. Mad Studio, welcome. I'm just talking about a new podcast I came across. I mean, it's not new. I mean, it's been out for a year. But for me, like when I find a new podcast, if it doesn't have a ton of episodes, I like to try and go back to the beginning because maybe there's some type of ongoing story. So they've only been out a year, maybe 30 episodes total. It's maybe 25 episodes total. When it comes to actual podcasts, but the very, very first one was Dominic and Kinnear, and Connor. Well, his last name is anyway. So they're reading the what is it? They are reading the very first, or they're doing a table read of the episode Shuttle Pod 1 from Enterprise. It's like a first season episode. And it's funny because they do the read and then they talk a little bit about it. And they had Gary Graham on there doing the stand-in for Archer. And then they have one of their producers doing two of their producers were standing in for other characters. But the primary episode is around them. And it's a really good episode. I really enjoyed the episode. Well, it's funny because I love watching these, these actors and what they think, and they actually really enjoyed the episode. And in fact, both of them agreed that when it comes to their body of work, or at least when it comes to Enterprise, that it was that's the one episode that they are the most proud of. And so I was like, wow, dude, that's really cool. So I just started watching, I've listened to, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them by now. But yeah, it's really cool. And it kind of like the way, they're sitting there, they're drinking, whiskey, and everyone has a mic, and they're just, on a stand talking. And I'm like, oh, dude, I had so much fun doing interviews with people. Um, I think that would be, something fun to start again. I don't mind doing it on this type of platform where we have, what is it? Like we're split off and it's live and people can ask questions and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of liked it when I did, like, it was a lot of editing. That's why I like doing the live, because it's easier. But I like doing the editing because you get there's me, big screen, there's the other person, you do, and it's this back and forth. And so I don't know how many cameras that they have, but it's almost like they have, let's see, they have 3, 4, maybe 5 cameras doing all the recording. And I don't know if it's one of the producers in the back who's just going camera 1, camera 2, and it's switching back and forth, and they can edit. Because like for me, I took the video footage from me and the video footage from the person that I had talking, or my guest, and then I would put it into Final Cut, sync up the audio, and then just switch. And there's this, it's really easy. You can just switch back and forth between people, so you can go back and forth. And I can't remember the title, but like the files end up being absolutely ginormous. But I had so much fun doing that. So I don't know if it's going to end up being I like doing the tea talks. I think this is, I really enjoy this, but I think at some point I'm going to bring back Dojo Chat. I had to take the website down because I wasn't using it. And then I had that big, that big problem with my getting hacked a few months back. But I'd really like to do that. And I could do it over this, but I'd also like to sit and just have a chat. And almost like I was watching these episodes and, these podcasts, and just kind of, going, God, I missed that. I miss doing that. I even thought about I could, this is my office. You can see I've got my vinyl stuff on the wall. And what you don't see is I have a table that has a bunch of stuff. I've got, some bookcases, but I could, and this, of course, my desk is in the opposite corner, but I could set this up with a couch or some chairs, and, we could, I don't know, I don't know. I think it could be fun. And I know I call it Dojo Chat because, it's martial arts related, but I think that would be fun. Or maybe set up something that can be taken down and put up very easily at the dojo. So we could do, and do something like that. I think that would be pretty cool. Let's see. My friend Terry Cooper, better known as Terry on Tuesday on YouTube, is like a jack of all trades. He's pretty much done everything. Oh, that's pretty cool. So I don't know. Okay, I'll have to check that out. So Terry on Tuesday. Let me write that down. See what he's all about. Tuesday. All right. So, but yeah, I don't know. So I don't know when that's going to happen. I need to bring the school into a spot that's a little bit better. So if I do start Dojo Chat up. It's probably won't be an every week thing. I mean, like this is easy. I just sit at my computer and I talk for an hour, or at least until my tea. And I've been talking so much that my tea is only half full. So but it's one of those things where I don't think it would happen every week, at least to begin with. And then and I'd have to choose a day because I've got like, what is it? Q Show Corner comes out on Thursdays. I do this Fridays. I could do one, I don't know, it could come out Monday. Yeah, I don't know. Shoot. I mean, I've got a bunch of other days in there, but it's one of those where I got to spread it out a little bit. Got to spread the love. But I think that would be fun. I really enjoyed it. Oh, let's see. He's a fellow Brit as well, from London originally, but has lived in South Wales now for 43 years. Oh, geez. I'm based in Merseyside. Am I saying that right? Merseyside, not far from Liverpool, where the Beatles came from. Oh, right on. So I've never actually been to London. I'd like to go to London someday. My sister and her husband, they lived once when they graduated from college. They got jobs as accountants. They started working for firms in Seattle, but then found out that they could transfer. So, like, they're little world travelers. So they're they lived in Prague and London and somewhere else. I never did go over there to visit just because I'm not really a world traveler. I'm not really I think I've been to a handful of states in my 50 years, but it is what it is. I did go to Liberia when I was like 6, which I actually have my, common knowledge. My mom died, I don't know, 6 years ago, I think, maybe 7. And my stepfather, he's on his way out too. He's very, very sick. Doctors gave him like 6 months. He got home. Hospice is saying it's going to be less than 6 months. I saw him on Tuesday. I don't think he's going to last a couple more weeks. Like, he's going downhill. But aside of that, going over to my mom's, my sister and I are, we're clearing out stuff that, he's in the other room being taken care of by his kids and his ex-wife. We're an amazing, amazing people. But but it's giving my sister and I, more my sister than me, really. She's the one, but of just kind of getting rid of some of my mom's stuff that was held on to that we don't know why. So I got a hutch. I brought home a hutch yesterday. There's some chairs that I'm going to get probably after Mark passes, just because they're being used. And then a piano. But so anyway, so there's, and I can't even remember why I was getting into this. There was a point why I went there. Shoot. God, I cannot I hate it when I start telling a story and I can't remember why I started telling the story, so I can talk about the point. Oh, thank you, sir or ma'am. I appreciate it. It is a very sad time, but I'm managing. So yes, I would say that. It's funny. I'm not up for labels, but I'll tell you, if ADD was all the rage when I was younger, that's a label that would have been put on me. Cause I do. And actually it was funny because my mom had me tested, cause I can't remember what it was for. But basically they didn't say I had dyslexia. I had dyslexic tendencies. So read into that however I don't know. So I had a tutor when I was, but ADD was not a thing. Like I think ADD is like one of those I think it really came up in like the late 90s, as I remember. So I think if it was ADD was really a thing when I was younger, oh yeah, I would have been tagged on that. But I have ADD tendencies. Totally, I would totally admit that. I only have ever been abroad once, and that was to Lapel in Finland, which is sparsely populated abroad with Sweden, Norway, Russia, and Baltic Sea. Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Now I remember. I went to Liberia. We're going through my mom's shit. She saved she saved some license plates. So she's got God, what is it? She had a California license plate that says Oregon on it. My mom's from Oregon. I was born in Oregon. I think 5th generation Oregonian. I can't remember, but my mom was all about Oregon. I can't stand Oregon. There's some beautiful places, but Portland is not one of them. I moved out. I only moved across the river, but I got out of Oregon. But anyway, the reason I started telling that story is because she lived with my dad in Liberia. My father, if you guys don't know, is an anthropologist, cultural studies. He was doing studies in Liberia. So they had a car there, and she has Liberian license plates. And actually, if you look over here, so there's my Eaglemoss Star Trek collection, or my Enterprise collection, and then down here is I need to organize a little bit more, but that is my my all the stuff that my parents brought home from Liberia. Now I went to Liberia later on because my dad went back over there, met my stepmother, woohoo, and so I went to go visit. I think I was over there for like 6 or 8 weeks, but I was like 6. But yeah, so a fun time. Let's see. I usually explain to people that my brain is an office filled with cabinets, folders thrown everywhere, and a 70-year-old woman who smokes 3 packs of unfiltered Camels a day, drinks 5 pots of coffee, and randomly shouts, "Oh, there it is." That's amazing. That is amazing. So yeah, that was the point of my story, was going through my mom's stuff, found Liberian license plates. So I brought, amongst other things, I brought those home. So my late granddad always told me we were the descendants of Vikings, as they did have settlements where I live. And that's a good possibility. Let's see. I believe the Ottens, if we go back, so my mom is Reed, Otten, all that kind of stuff. I think they can be traced back to Germany as well, but I know me, hand worker, I'm a 4th or 5th generation hand worker in the States. The first hand workers on at least my line, not and hand worker as in Nathan hand worker, Nathan's hot dogs. I don't know if it's from the same line. It could be a different line of hand workers, but my line of hand workers came over in 1836 from Germany. So we reign from Bavaria. Woo, go BMW. Okay. Morgan posted, "Oh, the younglings I will be slaying." Oh, yes. We'll be going back in time. My ancestors threw rocks at giants. Okay. So Morgan is actually going to be the one who's going to be slaying younglings. It's going to be fun. I only have a couple people signed up. so it might be sparse. So we're trying to get the word out a little bit more. We did flyers. We did posts on Facebook through the Burton PTO. We're going to see if we can actually get it on the school page too. Don't know if we can do that yet, but we're trying. We got another thing going out, but we'll be ready for you. So it'll be fun. Let's see. The only ancestor I know very well is my great grandfather from my dad's side. He worked on the railways for 50 years and he fought in both world wars. Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah. I never really knew any of my great grandparents. I mean, I think I had a great grandparent that was alive when I was much, much younger, but I only ever knew my grandparents. On my mom's side, I only ever knew my grandmother because my grandfather died when, I don't know, I was 3, something like 2 or 3, something like that. So yeah, it's crazy. And now for me, like I'm 50, I have a grandson of my own. So like, you know, I don't think he'll ever know my dad because, he'll, you know, he's in our lives, but he's not. And then of course, my stepfather, who's probably going to be gone in the next couple weeks. Like James just won't remember him at all. So, but that's, I guess, just the way life is, you know? Let's see. Yeah. I've done a little bit of genealogy stuff through, what do you call it? Ancestry.com, and mostly on my side, like the handworker side. So, and I've gone all the way back to Boniface and Catherine coming over. I'm from the John Valentine line, but they had 5 kids. So I really haven't done a lot of that. I do, what is it? There is a whole slew of handworkers out in Ohio. So I don't know exactly what line they came from, but I think it was if I do a lot of different little things. So I'll focus a little bit here, focus a little bit here. So I haven't done any genealogy stuff in a long time, but I know my line. So at least up. I just don't know the others, you know, the other spreads, because I think there was three sons. Boniface and Catherine had 3 sons and 2 daughters, I think. So I'm not exactly positive. Let's see. I descended from old world Jews. They were rabbis of their time in the city of Minsk, a place that was wiped out. They left 4 years before it got ugly and escaped. I have all your others' genealogy. Oh, well, that's cool. He was only 16 years old when he signed up for the Royal Navy during World War I. Back then, you had to be 18 or over to join the armed forces, but somehow he managed to bluff his way through. You know, that's not uncommon, I think, for those eras. I've heard a bunch of different stories of different people wanting to go to war, being underage, and being able to lie about their age. And because back then the technology for, you know, saying how old are you to prove somebody's age, you really had to go on their word or the word of their parents. So you could totally lie. And I'm sure the documents, like if you're like, oh, is there a birth certificate? Well, I'm sure if there's a birth certificate, then there's what is it? Then you have back then I think it would be easier to counterfeit those. Nowadays, Like Big Brother's watching all of us all the time. Everything's being documented. So, and there are, there are ways, I'm sure, I don't know how, but I do know that there's ways to, counterfeit stuff. So I'm sure it can still be done now, but I think it would be a lot harder with the technology now if somebody underage was to go and be like, hey, I'm 16, but I want to join the military. At least on the US side, I think it would be harder to do that than it was back then. Then by World War II, he listed into the Royal Engineers stationed in Ireland for most of World War II, but he was sent to Europe shortly after D-Day invasion. Oh, cool. That's a lot of knowledge. My grandfather fought in, he was in World War II. He flew a P-48. I think it was, or is it a P-47? God, I can't remember. Do I have I grew up getting model ships or model airplanes all the time of the airplane he flew. I want to see it's a P-47, but I could be wrong. But he was very, very proud. He got shot down once, landed in the ocean, like told us different stories. Like he said that when he shot down and fell into the ocean, it was probably one of the scariest. He said it was scarier being in the water waiting for rescue because there were sharks than actually being shot down. So, but yeah, that's cool. Young sir, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I see pictures on Facebook when I get on Facebook. Looks like you're doing okay. Good. I'm glad. I've got my granddad to thank to telling me everything he could to remember him. Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I think it's important to kind of know where we came from. There's because I think there's a lot of, at least this is my experience. At least for the culture I grew up in, I'm just an ugly white guy. There was no like coming of age type of thing for me. I grew up in the Episcopalian Church. I did not choose to get confirmed. I was forced. So it was one of those where, if that was going to be a coming of age, it didn't mean anything to me. So I don't know. But I think knowing our history and knowing, how our family came up, that helps us. Yeah. And great point, Young. Martial arts was my coming of age. That's how I kind of see it for me too. But at the same time, I have not, like your standard, I started a school and I trained for X number of years and I get my black belt. Like, I didn't have that experience either. Like, it was, I trained at many different schools. I was like this close to getting my black belt with my instructor. And then we had some type of falling out. And then, so I couldn't train with him anymore because he was just a dick. And then and I will take it. I was probably at fault too, because I was like 21, dumb and 21. So it's one of those where, maybe I was even 22. I can't remember. Was I married yet? I don't think I was married yet, but it was one of those where like, I didn't have that traditional go to a school. Like, I learned my stuff in a church. We met at a church. We met at a school. We met like not a dojo, like a dojo with mats, like an elementary school, the back hall of a church. outside at a park. Like we had different places that we would train, and then going to seminars all the time. And then when I couldn't train with them anymore, I continued my training on my own, and I met other people who like martial arts. And one morning I was just like, here's your black belt. You know more than us. Like, because I was teaching them pressure points and they didn't know they were all sport people and they wanted to learn pressure points. And they were like, we can't be learning from a brown belt. Here's your belt. So that's kind of but it wasn't, I didn't have this grueling 12-hour test where I sweated my insides out and threw up every 10 minutes doing, thousands of push-ups. So that happened for my second degree test. I didn't do any throwing up, but it was intense and I did actually get a concussion. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of but it's weird because I just didn't have that general one. Mine is a bit of a story, but would love to share. Too long to text. No worries. We can actually talk about that. In fact, what you missed is I might be bringing back Dojo Chat at some point. So, let's see. Going back up, my granddad did his time in the British Army, served his national service in Korea during the Korean War, and while there saw Marilyn Monroe perform on stage, entertaining the American troops. Wow, that's kind of cool. Jeez. All right, back up. Okay, so Young, I'm going back up. Let's see. What are you doing? I'm preaching at a Filipino church next month. Oh, that's cool. They usually make lumpia. Ooh, that sounds like fun. All right, Garrett. At the age of 7, I heard and saw a lightsaber on screen. I freaked out. I'm pretty sure I took martial arts to... Is that martial arts or partial arts? Because I've heard the term partial arts to train as a Jedi so I could train weapons so I could learn sword. Because I knew fighting with a lightsaber would be a thing for the rest of my life. Yeah, I think that's why I started doing Kenjutsu, is because of the lightsaber. But that wasn't until much, much later. Late Grandmaster Hogan walked in and handed my dad and I our second degrees. Wow. And that sometimes happens. So, but I don't know. Oh, my tea is cold now, but it's almost finished. So the show is almost finished. Yeah, this is like, we've kind of talked about almost everything. Well, not almost everything, but we've kind of gone back and forth here today. Dr. Mad Studio is new to the show. Hey, so did you just randomly click on here, or do you actually follow me? Dr. Mad Studio. I'm curious. Ding, ding. Emmett was on here before. He's from Ireland. He usually listens to me on his, when we're on here, he usually listens to me on his way home. Oh, let's see. I was live stream hopping. That's how I came across your channel. Sweet. That's awesome. Cool. This episode is similar to our conversation yesterday. Yeah, we started in one section and just kind of hopped all over the place. Yeah, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Yeah, that's and it's like, for me, like here, I do this kind of like, me doing the tea thing was mainly because I wanted to talk about my journey as a martial arts instructor, opening a school, and what am I doing to open this, what am I doing in the process? What are my successes? What are my failures? All that kind of stuff. And I really didn't start that until I was doing a dojo chat where I did not have anybody. I didn't have anybody to show up. So I was like, well, hell, I'll just talk about myself. And so there was, there were a couple episodes where I just talked about myself because I wanted to have it. I wanted to keep consistency and not be like, oh, well, he's always on Saturday. What, where is he? So I wanted to keep that consistency, but I wanted to, if I didn't have anybody, I would just talk about myself, or we would talk about a topic. And so for whatever reason, I just stopped doing that. I think it was basically focusing on the school, but I did have a series where I did video stuff. I would talk about topics and I called it My Journey. So I just like, okay. So essentially like this stream, Morning Tea with Me is kind of like a live My Journey. But I talk about everything that's me. Like sometimes we talk about the school. I'm a huge Star Trek nut. So we talk about Star Trek and we talk about Star Wars. Because like come the first, we got Mandalorian coming out. And then on, we already have, what's it called? Bad Batch. So we talk about that. And that's kind of why I do. It's like, let's talk about life, Star Trek, martial arts, but not necessarily in that order. So, but I like, and as we jump from topic to topic, like I'll start on something and then somebody will post something here in the stream. I'm like, ooh, that looks really interesting. So then, so it is that bounce around, just like that conversation that Rob and I had the other day. Oh, there goes a little kitty through my yard, but not my cat. Let's see. It's been almost 2 years since my granddad passed away. He was 86. Music was his biggest passion. I could go on forever about the artists he loved. But the Beatles and Bob Dylan were his top two favorites. Yeah, so it's been, I don't have any grandparents around anymore. Let's see, I'm 50. My papa, I'm papa to my grandson, but my papa is, he passed away about 10 years ago. And then his wife, my baba, she died about a year before that. So it's been about a decade, or more. I think it's been more. But like for losing a parent, that's, that was really hard on me. Like that was, margarita time with the wife. All right, sir, you take it easy. But it's just one of those where it's like when my mom died, my mom and I had a weird relationship. And so when she actually died, it was very sudden. Like it wasn't any of those like, oh, she's been sick for a long time. No, we found out she was sick. And then like 2 days later, she was dead. But I always thought, and even in her will, like in her, what is it? I can't remember what you call it. Not a will, but it's like in her medical plan, like I was the decider to turn her off because she didn't think that my stepdad would be able to turn her off because she didn't want to be on any ventilators. And but when it came time, like it was a family decision. We decided, well, my mom doesn't want this, unplug her. But me having this weird relationship with her, I didn't think it would affect me that much. And it really did. Like I gained a ton of weight. I had no passion to do anything. I went to work. I would teach every now and then, but it was one of those where it was like, if you watch some of my older Q Show Corner episodes, like this big guy, like I watch him, I'm like, damn, I was big. And I didn't think I was big. I knew I was big, but like round, like my face is flatter. Like it is fatter than it was a few months ago. I know that. And even when I was at my smallest a couple years ago, or smallest as an adult, let's just say that, it was thinner. I've been gotten a little bit bigger, but it's one of those where it's like, damn, I was big. And like seeing me in a 2X t-shirt where like it was tight on me, like I was like, no, I can't do that. Can't do that. So like, and I'm an emotional eater, like I'm a stress eater. So like with the school, when things are stressed and I don't want to think about cooking, I'm just like, I'm going to go to McDonald's, which is probably the worst thing I could do. But there's a McDonald's like 100 yards away from the school. So it's one of those, it's like, ah, but so I personally struggle with that. But like say with my with my and like my stepdad, that's really like they know my kids know my dad, kind of. They know who he is, but my my stepdad, Mark, that's their grandfather. Like that's who they know as a grandparent. And so with my mom, the boys were there when my mom passed away. My daughter was off with my wife at a volleyball tournament. But now it's like they're adults. So I don't know how that's going to affect them. Honestly, I don't know how it's going to affect me because Mark never really like he treated me as a son, but he didn't. Like it's kind of that, but he never never mistreated me. I mean, I was already adult when my parents got together. I was married, had kids already, but I don't know. He was always just, I was very accepting of him. He was very accepting of me. So it'll be a loss, but I'm more worried about how my kids are going to deal with it in the end. But yeah, it was weird. Let's see. This show, because he says this show is a running stream of consciousness that had a purposeful start but easily derailed by shiny thoughts, nerdum, dreams, and martial arts. Yes. All right. His death pretty much affected me a lot because I was close to him, but I soldier on regardless. Life doesn't stop for no one. Anyway, and that's true. That's true. So yeah, that's and Jim, stress eating is real. Yes, I know. Me, that's one of the things that when it comes, I'm a martial artist. I'm supposed to be I'm supposed to have good discipline and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to the eating, bad discipline, bad discipline. So, so that's one thing I struggle with. I've actually been very good this week. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, my brain because I've tried to get back into changing my diet and not going on a diet by improving my diet, changing what I eat and not eating certain things. Because I was keto for about a year or so, and that's where I lost all my weight. And I bounced off and on and off and on. But I've been really good this week. I weighed myself this morning. I am 260 exactly. The lowest I got a couple years ago, I think it was July of 2020. I got down to 226. So my ultimate goal is 200, and then I can fluctuate between like even the 210 and 220. Like if that gives me like 20 pounds, 10 pounds to fluctuate between, I'll be happy. But I know because my pants are a little bit tight, or at least my gi pants, I had to replace my gi pants because I ripped the butt out of them on the other ones. But my top, I wear a 7 just because I like it big and loose, and it's not really loose anymore. So yeah. A yang man must be aware of yang excesses. Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. All right, so I hate to bring this to a screeching halt. It's been an hour and a half. Usually the show is about an hour, so we had a great show today, And Dr. Matt Studio just posted something else, so I'll share it here. This is my last sip of tea. And my computer, which is not plugged in to power, it's been running off the battery, is actually telling me that I need to plug it in. And I don't have a my power thing to plug it in near me. So we're going to take this last one, last comment. I'm a photographer, usually venturing out train spotting. I've always had an interest in rails since I was a little tot, not to mention it's in my blood because of my great grandfather. Yeah, that's, it's funny you mentioned that. So like for me, I'm a teacher. I've always known I wanted to be a teacher. In high school, I love literature. And so I was like, I'll be an English teacher. Like I love literature and grammar. So it's like I could be a literature teacher or an English teacher, because I had not started in the martial arts. And when I started in the martial arts, that's kind of where it was like, I knew this is going to be my passion. This is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. Like my first class, even though it was weird and awkward, I knew I was going to be a martial artist for the rest of my life. And as I grew in the martial arts, I knew I was going to eventually be teaching. Now, my father is a professor of anthropology. He taught at the university level forever. When we talk about genealogy, Boniface and Catherine, who came over from Germany, Boniface was a headmaster of a school in Germany before he came over. So I'm not really sure all the other people who I know that John Valentine, who I'm off the line, he was a doctor, but there are teachers in my line, and so it's just one of those things where you say it's in your blood. I totally believe that. So, all right. Before this actually shuts off, I'm going to do it manually. So thank you all for coming. Love to you all. I want you to be safe. I will be back on here next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Until then, live long and prosper and be